Hey folks, this is Kalani. It's been a while since we saw this many nerfs come through the pipeline all at once, but several dungeons have seen huge, sweeping nerfs, and there are even a couple of changes to the Castle Nathria raid to make a few bosses significantly easier, especially on Mythic difficulty. So let's break down everything new and have a chat about where these nerfs leave us. Before we jump in, be sure to pop by our live stream sometime over at twitch.tv/KalaniTV. We stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, and we always love chatting with you wonderful folks, so I hope to see you soon. Let's kick things off with the dungeon nerfs, because hoo boy, there are so many of them. Plaguefall is the first one on the list, with a few changes for the last boss, Margrave Stradimer. The Plaguebound devoted ads have had their health and damage reduced by 40%, a pretty hefty nerf right there. The frequency of infectious rain casts has been reduced in the final phase, which should significantly reduce your group-wide damage taken. And the timing of Plague Crash has been slightly adjusted so there is a little more time between tentacle slaps. If you're one of those chaps who get slapped down by these tentacles a little too often, well, now you'll have a bit more time to get into a good position. For the Sanguine Depths dungeon, the dev team has fixed an issue where some flying monsters would not properly contribute towards your trash percentage in Mythic plus Keystones. Always nice to see the bugs being addressed. And then the first boss, Crixus the Voracious, has been nerfed a bit as well. Severing Smash has had its damage reduced by 20% on all difficulties, and the Essence Absorption effect has had its damage reduced by 20% on Mythic difficulty. That should make this boss a bit easier to deal with, especially on tyrannical weeks. The second boss will also see a pretty big change. The Fleeting Manifestation ads have had their health reduced by 20%. The faster those ads die, the less damage you're going to take overall, so that's a pretty big nerf as well. Moving on, the three big ads at the end of Spires of Ascension have received some slight tweaks. They will no longer be affected by Mythic plus affixes that trigger on death, like Sanguine, and their Oppression ability now increases damage taken by 1% per application, down from 2%. Halving the potency of that group-wide damage increase debuff is pretty huge and will make these ads a bit less problematic in higher keys. And then we come to Necrotic Wake. Oh boy, what a mountain of changes. Let's start with the bosses. For the first boss, Blightbone, the Carrion Worm ads that he spawns will now explode after they get 5 stacks of Blood Gorge, up from 3. This gives you a little more wiggle room for mistakes, which should give you enough time to nuke those ads down. The second boss, Amarth, has seen quite a few changes too. The range at which skeletons are summoned from Land of the Dead has been reduced, so the chances of getting that one mage spawn all the way across the arena should be much lower, allowing you to group them up faster and AoE them down. The boss's Unholy Frenzy attack speed bonus has been reduced by 20% as well, so that's going to be less dangerous if you aren't able to dispel it. And then all of the ads were nerfed quite considerably on top of everything else. Reanimated Warriors deal 20% reduced damage, Reanimated Crossbowmen deal 20% reduced damage as well. The Reanimated Mage's Frostbolt Volley deals 20% reduced damage, and the Mage's Frostbolt, I know this says Frostbolt Volley, but I'm pretty sure it's meant to be Frostbolt, you'll see why in a second. That's going to deal 36% reduced damage, and the cast time was increased. So overall, ads are going to be much easier to deal with, or at the very least, they won't kill you quite as quickly. And then for Surgeon Stitchflesh, his Embalming Ichor Puddles only last for 1 minute down from 6, which is a pretty crazy change when you think about it. Why did these puddles last for 6 minutes to begin with anyway? And that's it for the bosses, but a lot of trash has been nerfed as well. The brittle undead that accompany the necromancers have been given the same treatment as the second boss's ads. So the crossbowmen deal 20% reduced damage, a bug that allowed them to bypass armor has been fixed, and the warriors deal 20% reduced damage as well. Now as for the Brittlebone Mages, their Frostbolt Volley damage has been reduced by 20%, and its cast time was increased to 3.5 seconds, and then their Frostbolt damage was reduced by 36%, and the cast time was also increased. With these ads receiving the same treatment as the second boss's ads, this is why I think the 36% nerf on the boss ad was actually related to Frostbolt instead of Frostbolt Volley. It doesn't stop there though, oh no. Corpse Harvesters have had their health reduced by 29%, Corpse Collectors have had their health reduced by 29% as well, and Stitched Vanguards have had their health reduced by 14%. Narzadar's health was also reduced by 20%, skeletal monstrosities had their health reduced by 20% and their melee damage reduced by 35%. Loyal Creations have had their health reduced by 24%, and Kyrian Stitchwork's health was reduced by 25%, and their melee damage was reduced by 17%. Whew, what a round of nerfs! So much trash in Necrotic Wake should be much faster to kill with these changes in place, and some very problematic trash mobs like the skeletal monstrosities should be easier to deal with in general. I wonder how these huge, sweeping nerfs will affect players' attitudes towards Necrotic Wake. It definitely seems to be one of the least favoured dungeons right now, simply due to how difficult it can be in both tyrannical and fortified weeks. And then of course, thanks to the MDI showing off all kinds of crazy stunts, we now have some nerfs to address those kinds of issues as well. So now when a bloody javelin or discharged anima orb hits more than 8 enemies, the total damage is distributed evenly across all targets. So you can still group up 8 enemies and blast them to pieces, but any more than that and you'll see significant reductions to your overall damage output with these items. On the other hand, all of the Kyrian armaments, the Javelin, Shield, Anima and Forehammer will now persist through death, so you don't have to worry about messing up a key with an unlucky death anymore, so that's a nice change at least. And then to wrap up these dungeon changes, the Manifestation of Pride, which spawns on Mythic Plus keys 10 and above with the Prideful affix, that chap can now see through stealth and invisibility effects, so if you are making use of some good old cheese strats that involve stealthing or invising to skip a prideful mob, you might have to rethink some of those strategies. It's not just dungeons that are getting whacked hard by the nerf bat though, the Castle Nathria raid has quite a few nerfs as well. Most of these changes are to make bosses easier overall, but a couple actually change how you might approach the fight in a larger sense. For the Council of Blood encounter, Dreadbolt Volley's damage was reduced by up to 20% in smaller raid sizes. In Raid Finder Normal and Heroic difficulties, damage will remain the same in 30-player raids. Drain Essence will see similar treatment. Its damage has been reduced by up to 20% in smaller raid sizes on Raid Finder Normal and Heroic, with damage remaining unchanged in 30-player raids. And then Dark Recital's duration has been reduced down to 6 seconds from 7 seconds on Normal and Heroic. The Dark Recital change means you have to dance for less time, which is cool I guess, but the other two changes focus on making the encounter easier and more accessible for smaller raid sizes, which is definitely appreciated. Now moving on to Sludgefist. These nerfs are targeted at Mythic quite specifically. Colossal Roar's damage was reduced by 10% on Mythic difficulty, Chain Slam's damage was reduced by 35% on Mythic difficulty, and the Chain Bleed's damage has also been reduced by 35% on Mythic difficulty. Sludgefist is definitely a huge DPS and healing check, especially on Mythic difficulty, so seeing adjustments to the overall damage of the fight isn't surprising. Seeing 35% nerfs is pretty bonkers though. This should make the fight significantly easier overall, so the guilds who are stuck on Sludgefist will have a better shot of taking him down now. And the last boss to receive some nerfs this week is the Stone Legion Generals encounter. These are again quite focused on Mythic difficulty, but there are some changes in here that change how the fight will progress. For example, General Karl and General Grishal's spell cooldowns now reset with phase changes. This should make the fight more consistent, even if you end up pushing the phase at different times. A more predictable fight should be easier overall, and with the rest of these nerfs added into the mix, Stone Legion Generals should be much easier to take down, especially on Mythic difficulty. This next one is a bit of a curious change. The Serrated Swipe, Serrated Tear and Stonefist abilities have had their range increased to 100 yards, which basically just means you can't ever outrange or avoid these abilities now. To compensate for that, both Serrated Tear and Stonefist have had their damage reduced by 20% on Mythic difficulty. In a similar vein, the Heartrend debuff has also had its range increased to 300 yards. Again, I guess to prevent you from avoiding the ability by outranging it, so this might mess up quite a few cheese strategies. There is an upside to this though. The Heartrend debuff no longer applies Heart Hemorrhage to players who dispel the effect, so this part of the fight has been completely removed, which should make it much easier and smoother overall for your healers. There are several nerfs for the various adds in the fight too. Stone Legion skirmishers have had their health reduced by 6%. The Stone Legion Goliath adds health has also been reduced by 10%, so they should die quite a bit faster. And their special Ravenous Feast ability has had its cooldown increased by 6 seconds on Mythic difficulty, giving you a bit more time in between those big bursts of damage. The volatile Stone Shell Absorb shield from the adds has also been decreased by 20% on Mythic difficulty, so all of the adds in general should be less problematic throughout the fight. So a lot going on here for Stone Legion generals, but most of it is related to Mythic difficulty, so if you've been stuck on Sludgefist or Stone Legion generals in your Mythic progression, these nerfs should be great news. If you don't do Mythic raiding, well, hopefully we'll get some more nerfs for normal and heroic if you're still struggling on those as well. But if you've been struggling on the Council of Blood on any difficulty, at least there are some big nerfs in there for smaller raid sizes. And that's it for this video. What do you think of all these dungeon and raid nerfs? Was there anything in here that made you think, oh my god, yes, finally, it's about time that got nerfed? Or are there any other boss encounters or dungeons that you think absolutely need some nerfs that didn't get any? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to come chat, hang out, maybe run a couple dungeons with us, you can find us over at twitch.tv/KalaniTV. We stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, and watching the stream and coming to say hi is one of the best ways you can support the channel right now. And if you ever wanted to be included in the long list of names at the end of every video, a subscription on Twitch is the easiest way to make that happen. You get a free sub to any Twitch channel if you have Amazon Prime too, so be sure to take advantage of that. A big thank you to everyone who's subscribed on Twitch already and to our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, well, now you know how. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.